Hey, it's Don the Auction Professor. Today, again, we're going to talk about some more antiques, some more collectibles that I would consider BOLOs. And like I've said in other videos, you want a broad range of items to look for these days. Maybe 5-10 years ago, you could go on one category and one niche. There's just too much spread out on the internet. There's too many places selling. There's too many people selling to be able to survive in one niche in one site. So if you're not going to broadcast yourself out on other sites, which, you don't have to do to make a lot of money, you're just going to have to know a lot of items. So today, we're going to talk about Crackerjack Charms and Crackerjack Collectibles in general. Some of the items that will show up, some of the types to look for, values, and what to expect to pay for these, and profit-wise. It's not a huge area, but I do find them all the time, and I almost never pay much for them at all. It's very rare that I pay ever even $1 for most Crackerjack Charms. Usually it's way less than that. It's a few cents, and sometimes at an auction, local live auction or estate sale, you can get a whole bag of them for a couple bucks. And I mean hundreds of them, and when people just don't know what they're looking for. So anyway, we're going to go to the screen and we're going to talk about Crackerjack Charms and Collectibles right this moment. Okay, now Crackerjack, it's the same as any other category. There's a bunch of different stuff in it. For the most part, it's the charms that most people think of and look for, but there's other items that show up too. It doesn't have to necessarily be the exact same Crackerjack. This is Crackerjack. It's a 2-patch kit. There are advertising pieces like this for you name it. I mean, Camel Cigarettes was notorious for doing stuff like this at gas stations and stuff because you could buy the cigarettes there too. And some of the other makers did stuff like this too at gas stations, so you'd want to go in and find the candy or whatever it may be while you're looking for car stuff. So you'd see inner tubes and things like that, patch kits for bikes and all kinds of stuff. This is 204. Now, this isn't technically, I would say, along the same lines, but people collect Crackerjack are going to collect this too. I can pretty much guarantee you that. Now, it doesn't even have to be old. This is from the 90s, and I've run across one or two of these in the past. You will see them at places, in garage sales especially, because most people don't think they're worth a ton of money, but they only made 500 of them. So that's the key on this one here. So $212. And at any time, there's several of these up on eBay. So it's not like super, super rare. They do show up, so anyway. Now, anything Marvel usually sells. These would have been folded or rolled up and inserted in the boxes of the Crackerjacks as well. Anything like this. Now, this was a buy it now for $235, and it's sold pretty much straight out the way I see it. And the individual ones can go for $10, $15, $20, even $30 or $40 on the right day, and considering how much the fold affects the actual stickers. Because the fold sometimes ruin them, but that's how you got them in there, so... Anyway, it's a rather interesting set. These always sell, especially this large of a lot. Set 12 with 19 dupes. So somebody's going to sell the duplicates probably and keep the set. Because again, these are rarer. And these show up, non-sports card collectors would collect these, comic book collectors would collect these. It's a wide group of people. So $235 for these. Charm bracelets. Now, that's a big thing they did with these. You'd see charm bracelets. People would try to collect as many as they could. And some of them even came with string and stuff that you could use for the charm bracelet. A lot of these look to be metal, which are usually the ones that I look for almost exclusively. People mix them up with like game pieces from, like Monopoly or something too, these little things. And some of the Monopoly board pieces could have been found in similar ones anyway, like the top hat and things, could have been found in Crackerjacks. Fish, birds, planes, cars, trains. This one went for $175 for this bracelet, charm necklace, whatever you'd want to call it. There's advertising for it too, and it's the Crackerjack Co. This is the genuine thing. They didn't just make Crackerjacks, so you will see other things for the holidays and things. And they try to show their Crackerjack toys, which were included in these marshmallow things too, in the images. These are all stuff that you'd find, all the little toys you see in the image. They're Crackerjack toys. That went for $199. Now here, as I said, tin. Now these are tin, pressed, printed on tin, so they're fairly collectible even as a toy on their own. They're small, an 1.5 inches, I guess, would be the max I see. Maybe on a good day you might see a little more than that, but that's usually about it max on any of the ones I see. Any of these tiny ones can be considered Crackerjack or prize premiums. That's what you usually see. Gumball machine someone may put in them. because not all of them, most people wouldn't even know which ones are which. There's price guides out there, and you'd have to really track down through the price guide because there were so many different charms. And this is a mix. So there's some that are not Crackerjack. Anything with the keychain's not pretty much a Crackerjack. There are some that may have been at some point, but none of these look to be it. This is in that top right there on the card. That's actually like a card you put in the machine to show what you could get. So anyway, this is a pretty good lot here, $165, and most people lot them up like this, and I do that for some of the cheaper ones, but the metal ones and the earlier ones, I don't always do that. I'll list them for a little while, pull them down, and then lump them into a lot, and then get rid of them that way. And here's another item here. This is like a 1 center that would have been on the counter at a 5 and dime store. Kids would come in. This is made by Crackerjack. It says that on the bottom even. I've seen these before. They're not super rare, but they are scarce, I would say. $149, and they average, say, 75 to 149. You see right here. Checker. Now this is just like a little Crackerjack checker, I think. It's like a story one, and there was other ones from the same line. This one went for $75. These tin printed ones are usually the scarcer ones, especially in good condition, because they were usually damaged. Kids played with these. That's what happened. So they are all damaged, or most of them are. Now, the paper ones I always liked better than anything else. And a lot of these are miniatures, too, which I talk about miniature items. Many times we've done items for miniatures. I've created models and everything, which are basically miniatures. So I like all of that. So the toys bring me in, and, I enjoy all of this type of stuff. I love to see how small they can do things and all these little movable cards and things like that. This is made to slide, and it changes the image. So there's basically like 2 images. One's like a ship scene, and then it goes into the actual sailor. There's a whole line of these. This isn't the only one. $145. Now, some of these, and here's another one here. So there were several lines of these. There might be 15 or 20 different versions. There might even be more than that. I know I've seen probably a half a dozen or more than that even. I've seen the same one many times. I mean, these are scarce, so you're not going to run into them. Maybe with a trade card collector you would, because that's who's going to collect this, honestly. 128.04, and again, multi-category item. This has interest from several categories: non-sports collectors, Crackerjack collectors, and there's also what would be called a premium collector too. They collect stuff from premiums, gumball machines, all the prizes and stuff from cereal and breads and all that stuff. They like the advertisement stuff. There's at least 3 categories for most of this. Something tin like this, there'd be a fourth one, which would be toys in general, and then there's tin collectors and stuff like that. So again, there's a ton of collectors for even that, and this one has the advertisement on the side. So Crackerjack shows, it's like a circus show item. These are usually bent when you see them. Sometimes they weren't. You'll be lucky and get some that weren't. Now, this one's an interesting one because there's some wood pieces in here next to the Cupies wood. There's some other ones that look like they have wood base. They could also be carved plastic as well. So anyway, it's hard to tell without actually being able to touch them. I remember little charms as a kid because they were still around. Gumball machines were a big thing still at almost every convenience store you could imagine, because it's what kids could afford. So anyway, dice are always popular. String, a lot of them were on string, and the ring you'll see those two. This is a typical thing. It's not some oddball thing you'll see. I see them on rings all the time when I see them. That's how the kids collect them. That way you didn't lose them. Most of the plastic ones too, like the Cupie, if they have metal, brass ring that holds the thing in, or that's screwed into the top or mounted or embedded in the item, it's usually a better or a more vintage one also. Now this is a newer one. Again, people just put Crackerjack in there sometimes, even if it's not. This probably isn't. This probably did come in the little egg. And these are good either way. So this is 60s probably, $125. It could have as well come in a little tiny sealed plastic bag with Crackerjacks. It's hard to say because so much of this is interchangeable to some extent. One company made a lot of this, and it might not necessarily been a factory specifically that Crackerjack owned that made everything. Sometimes they bought it too, from what I see. Here's another little boxed item. You can see the size on these. Now, some of these would have showed up folded, and you would, pop them together, and then that's how they would stay. This is a tin one. $123 on this one. Here's a sign. This was a buy it now. Somebody put this up pretty cheap if this was actually a real fledged sign, just because most of this stuff goes for a ton of money. And it was $115 as a buy it now, with shipping included. I mean, it's just an insane price. Low-wise, that is. Crackerjack and other advertising. Crackerjack made a lot of other stuff. Prize popcorn confection. This is a checker box. Now, this is similar in the same line. I can't say for sure that Crackerjack made this specific line, but probably they did. They made most of those little prize-style popcorns in different names. Crackerjack Penny Bank. This is something you will see. There's a couple different versions of this. I've had one or two of these. They're not super rare, but $108. So price-wise, it's pretty good for something you can get pretty cheap because the condition looks bad to most people. But that's not bad for a tin item. Glass. That's another one I always look for. The top bear's missing a mount, or it didn't have one, so it's hard to say on those. That one, you can see the bore looks like somebody's ripped off the wire from it too. You will find them like that because these are pretty old. These are 1910, 20s, 30s at the latest. They're handmade glass, you know, twisted up real quick or something. Some of them are machine made, but you know, they're usually fairly well made. You'll see, Czechoslovakia at the time was a leading glass manufacturer, and these were imported. So, as I said, Crackerjack didn't make everything. In fact, I don't think they made the majority of what was included in their boxes. So, anyway. Another charm, the little ring, like I said, metal ones like the clock you see there, that's pretty interesting. It's a marbled base too. The weird head cell, the flowers, the people, ones that look like wood, the dice. I mean, this is just a good setup here. $103 for those. These are really small. I mean, this is something that you could conceivably pay $0.25 for. So anyway. These knotters I always like too. One of these days I want to make some of our own, but anyway, they're pretty cool, especially considering it came in the box. And these are toy collectors collect these, circus collectors, Crackerjack collectors, prize collectors, premium collectors. I mean, there's a big list of people that collect all of these. So 16 bids, $103. This thing's small. It fits on your thumb. See if there's no, there's nothing to compare to that I see size-wise. But it's really small. I've seen this one many times. Another glass one. Now, some of these glass ones go very well. Now, you can see the mount there. That's the type you see on some of them. Some of it's just wire. Some of it's this flat, pressed out, stamped out stuff, too. But $98 US, 8 bids. Check glass again. Check glass on this dog. Again, you can see the necklace. And the necklace part, you know, some of the bands are usually missing on some of these as well. Sometimes they were issued without them if they were in like a gumball machine. No markings for the most part on most of these, but they are glass and they are tiny. This one's bigger than most, actually, but, you know, anyway. The little glass figures I always snap up. There's some named items, too, from, like, cartoons and series and things. Tunerville Trolley is one that's fairly popular. I've seen dozens of these, too, and there's probably a dozen or two on eBay at any given time. It's well marked. Of course, you wouldn't probably know it was Crackerjack, but, you know, they did do a lot of advertising pieces for other people. $93.50. And, of course, just like in the industry, you put product inside of yours, you get a premium from the company that's paying you to put it in there, plus they supply the item. It's an advertisement sometimes for some of these companies too. Now here's a pretty good assortment of some of the items in cars and vehicles. Now some of them look identical or nearly identical to the Monopoly pieces, so just keep that in mind. It's all crisscrosses around in what you find, and you know, some of these would have been pieces like that too. Some of them be marked Tootsie Toy, some of them be marked, you know, Crackerjack, or no markings whatsoever. So $94. This is a fairly common mix. The cars are pretty common, believe it or not. Some of the spacey looking ones aren't. Here's $93 for a matchstick gun. It's a really tiny gun. It's well made in Japan. That's usually a good sign on most of these. The military toys sell better than most other ones. I don't really feel like clicking on there. I pretty much can just tell you it's a tin one, and then the top part's die cast. I've seen a couple of versions of this. I think it's marked US, yeah, up there on the left. But anyway. Another one. Now this one comes in different mixes of colors. Sometimes the track bed on the bottom that's red, and this one could be green, and then the train could be red. The canopy or the tunnel part could be a different color too. So I don't worry about the color. These are specifically vintage ones. The gumball collectors collect these just as much as the Crackerjack. And most people that collect Crackerjack items don't just collect Crackerjack items because it's so hard to tell on some. Not every one is listed in a book that is probably a Crackerjack one. But there's thousands of Crackerjack things. I mean, it's a huge book if you haven't seen it before. Look at how the condition of this box. Just beat up box. It looks like it's even been repaired. This is a scarce, rare one. These early ones go for some ton of money. $89 for a beat up cardboard box with tears and rips is pretty darn good. 1901 patent on it, but that doesn't mean that's when it was made. This is probably 1905, 1910 at the latest. Anyway. Now, they did pins in there just like anything else. You can see the back on it. These are probably made by Whitehead and Hogue or somewhere along that line, some company like that. This is an advertising piece. But I don't think they would have come in actually the food because of the pin. But $89 for the pair, 14 bids. Another Nodder. Same thing as the other one, the leopard, lion, tiger Nodder. But there's a whole zoo of these, basically. $82, 14 bids. The skulls I always look for, especially the detailed ones or the ones that are metal. There's a metal version of this that's in painted white. I don't know if that was what this one is, but you'll get the hang of, what's what. And there's some glass heads. I just picked up a glass skull in the same line, but earlier than this one here, probably from the 30s. That'll probably get me about $75. It'll be one of the best ones I've had this year, charms, especially since I only paid like a nickel for it when I add into the cost of the whole bag of these I got. For $1, I got a whole bunch of ones, basically. 86 on those lots, 79.99 on this, and again the colors could be mixed up and stuff like that. And it's like a little diorama of sorts. It opens up and stuff. So $80 on that one. Again, colors could be different. It doesn't have to include the eggshell or anything. Here's a new set, too. Now, they have baseball cards, obviously. Most people should know it. The early baseball cards from Crackerjacks can sell for thousands of dollars. I skipped showing you all those because they're high dollar. You're just not going to run into those. I've only had like 2 in decent condition in my entire life. 2 individual cards. I don't go to sports shows either, but if you're interested, type in Crackerjack baseball. If you're into baseball and sports, and you're going to be shocked when you see some of the prices, and those you'll be looking for then. And they also made reproductions of most of the vintage baseball, so just keep that in mind as well. But this is a newer, I think 70s or 80s, or 70s. And this set, I've had many of these. $100 basically, and that's about average on these. They'll sell individually for $10 or so, so you can get a few more bucks individually. Bingo is the dog, and then this is kind of why they call some of those sailor uniforms, people call them, Crackerjack, because of this. It's not really a Crackerjack, it's just a typical sailor uniform, but this is a neat advertising one, $76. I believe it's tiny like the rest of them, too. Advertising lithograph tin. Toy prize tab button. It's a button or something, probably something you could snap on. Rather interesting. It probably won August 30th. This probably was listed in June and the photos were lost. The June, photo apocalypse. So anyway, $76. Another just train, and chances are it says something Crackerjack on it somewhere, but maybe not. They don't all say that. And this is how they were. They weren't like snapped together. It was just a piece of cheap metal wrapped around. One single piece made this, and then it was folded into the shape. I believe they were all put in the candy like this, but somebody else has shown me some flat ones, so I'm not 100% sure. I haven't looked into that aspect of it. I just know to look for and sell them. One of these days I'll probably get to that too, because I do look up all that kind of stuff just to know. May have just been sent, flat in some paper wrapped up inside the Crackerjack, and the kids would have to fold it the way it's supposed to go. That could very well be with a little instruction, because a lot of these stuff did have to be put together, but $75 with 12 bids. Tin serving trays and stuff like that were fairly common as well, too. Advertising pieces, change trays or serving trays, especially at like car hop places and stuff, or even before, that would have, sold the items as well, too. So $100 on that one. And there's tons of different varieties of these. Some you wouldn't even know it was Crackerjacks, and some aren't marked at all. In fact, I don't think this one is. The majority of the ones I've seen, I haven't seen a marking on them. There are a few that are, and some of them are marked in the back, and then some are marked like right down there in that lip, around the edge somewhere, so just keep that in mind. And that goes with Coke trays and stuff like that, too. And just another Tunerville. Now, this one's not as nice as the other one. You can see that it's been stressed, it's been around for a while. It's been played with. Look at the tires and the litho that's removed, gone, worn off from the tire section. Some kid enjoyed the heck out of this one here, would be my guess. And he took care of it still, too, because it's still pretty darn good condition, but it's got some wear compared to the other one. 120 bucks, and the price on these goes all over the place. They're not super scarce, as I said. They are scarce, but not into the rare side. So, you know, just keep an eye out for these. These do show up. So, anyway, and there's tons of other stuff. I'm just showing you just a minuscule amount of Crackerjack. And I may do another video on, you know, sourcing and some methodology in these and pricing them and categorizing them, as well as keywords on these. There's a lot of keywords you can use, and there's some that work really well. I mean, I can just put them up, throw some keywords on there, the right keywords, the right category, price it, you know, correctly, and boom, they're gone really quick, like in a day or two. Especially the good ones, like the Tunerville Ferry or Tunerville Trolley. I mean, especially like the Tunerville Trolley, that would be gone immediately. If I put it up as a buy it now, it'd probably be gone the same day it went up, you know, honestly. And there's many items in the collectibles field that's just how it plays. You list them and then they're gone the same day. But, well, there you go. There's some more items that we look for. Crackerjack items in general sell very well. We do very well on them. We've made a lot of money on them. I get them really cheap, as I've said. And as long as you have the time and patience to look them up, you're going to do very well with them. You can sell them in lots, as I said, or sell them individually. You just have to know which ones are worth doing it that way. And as I showed you, just basically the earlier ones, the metal ones, the ones with real glass, are usually the better ones to sell. But that's what I have for you today. Hopefully that gave you some ideas, some thoughts. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button down below. You can also hit the bell icon to be notified when I post new content or go live. Subscribe and tell a friend.